Welcome to Stylist Soul Tribe Conversations. I'm your host, Lisa Huff. Over the last 5 years, I've coached hundreds of hairstylists and beauty industry professionals, helping them work their dream schedules exclusively with their dream clientele and earn their dream income, all while fostering genuine connections and lifelong friendships inside the beauty industry. In this podcast, we dive deep into abundance, manifestation, business building strategies, and creating a life that you are truly proud of, both behind the chair and at home. Are you ready to embark on a journey of personal growth, success, and sisterhood? Then hit that subscribe button now and get ready to experience the pure magic of Stylist Soul Tribe Conversations. Hi friends, welcome back to Stylist Soul Tribe Conversations. I have a really special guest today, Laree Smith. Laree is the owner of Serene Hair Spa in the Pittsburgh area. She joined Stylist Soul Tribe last summer and has quickly become a bit of like a Soul Tribe rock star. She's quiet. She keeps to herself. She's extremely humble. You guys are going to hear that. She's never done anything like this before. She's scared to do this podcast episode. She just said she marked her whole entire day off. This is the only thing that she's doing. But I've had the privilege just over the last, not even a year yet, to get to know Laree on a deeper level. And it very quickly became clear to me as like, this woman is doing really big and really incredible things very quietly, and I don't think anybody realized quite how big of a powerhouse she is. I know I make you uncomfy when I say that, but hello, Laree. Thank you for being brave enough. Thank you for coming on. How are you feeling?
I can't believe I'm here, but I'm here. Yeah, it's crazy. And yeah, you say all the time about me doing big things, but I never even thought they were big things. They're just me doing things. So I'm here. I'm happy to be here. Definitely out of my comfort zone, but I'm excited to do it.
We're doing it. And I asked Laree before we got started, like I ask everyone, are there things you want to keep off limits? What kind of direction do you want to go? And she's like, I am up for whatever. I am an open book. There's no like skeletons in the closet that I don't want to, unpack or talk about. So you guys were going super script free. I honestly don't even have talking points. I am intrigued with who Laree is as a human. And then you guys will, as you listen along to this podcast episode, realize that being a human like this and having this mindset and this way of living can lead to extreme success, which I know you say you're just out here doing things, but you cannot be that humble that you don't realize that you're doing really big, successful things. So let's get into it. Take me back a little bit. Obviously, we could spend 2 hours, starting from your birth and talking about your entire life, but take me back a little bit. What was your life like as a child growing up into adolescence? Give me a little bit of a background. And Laree and I have had a very few brief glimpses of vulnerability where we realize we actually do have a lot of connections with our, childhood upbringing, things like that. So I know a little bit, but I'm sure I'm going to hear more today. So what has made you? Start back as far back as feels appropriate.
So, I'll start at the beginning,
Okay.
and I'll just kind of touch base. It's a little bit crazy and weird, but I grew up in a really small town. I moved a ton. I'm actually not very far from Pittsburgh, which is where I live now. But when I grew up, my parents had a 27-year age gap. And so my dad had a bunch of kids and a whole life before he met my mom. And my mom had me, and I have a younger brother that I'm very close with, that we were together with my mom all the time. My mom and dad were never really together that I remember growing up, but they had the relationship, and we saw our dad quite a bit. And
Yeah.
yeah, they co-parented fine, but I have brothers that were old enough to be a father to me as well. So they had kids that were my age. So I have nieces and nephews that are my age. So it was always like a crazy big, large family.
In total, how many siblings do you have? Because I know you've told me that before.
Yeah, so I have 14 brothers, and a lot of them are a lot older than me. And then I have one younger brother, and I'm the girl. So, but they were together off and on, and my mom was in abusive relationships when I was growing up and things like that. Whenever I was in My mom was brave enough to get out of a really abusive marriage, and we went to live in a women's shelter for about a year. I
How
was
old
10
were
years
you
old
then?
when that
Okay.
happened. Yeah, I was 10 when that happened. I was in 6 schools in 1 year, in my 5th grade year, and that's whenever, like, I had this amazing person, one of my older brothers dated when I was like really young. And when they separated, I was probably about 4 years old. And she just became a huge part of my life. And her
Just
name was
like a
Jeannie.
mentor or what? You just were
She
so,
became my best friend. I mean, and
oh,
she still is. So,
oh.
but yeah, Jeannie, it's crazy how this all happened. But like, Jeannie took me to Disney when my brother and her had sold a house. And she said, I don't really want the money, but I'm going to take your sister to Disney. And
Mm,
I was like 11 years old when she did that. And it changed my life.
mm,
And as she has always been there for me. And I think that my story is so strong because I had her, I had
mm,
my aunt, and I had my uncle.
mm.
So at 12, my dad passed away. My mom, as you know, she had a mental health breakdown, truly uh became bipolar and ended up with a really bad drug addiction. My mom since is clean, which is great. We have a relationship now, but she also was an alcoholic.
Yeah.
All the things that I just at that point in my life was like, okay, I never want to do this. I never want to be like this. So when my
Mm.
dad passed away, I went to live with my grandparents, which would be my mom's mom and her stepdad, and then my younger brother, because they didn't have a lot of room. We grew up living in a projects, which is like government housing. My grandparents didn't have a lot of room, so my youngest brother went to live with my aunt and uncle, which is my
Okay,
mom's sister.
real quick. Pause. I know sharing this stuff and all of that is like so much and you're talking so fast. You're giving me all of it at once. So I just want to take a second and just like one, say thank you for opening up. This is even more than I'm uncovering and learning about you just right now in these couple minutes that we have been talking. So thank you for opening up and being vulnerable and going there. Okay. So there's a lot deeper to this. So you said at 10 was when you and your mom left and your brother, correct?
Yeah.
Went
Mhm.
into the women's shelter. And then you said you were living in like project buildings. What age was that?
Yeah, so between the time I was 10 that we got out of the women's shelter, my mom, me and my brother went into like a government housing facility
Okay.
as well. Then between 10 and 12, 12 is when my dad passed away.
Mhm.
And that's when I went to live with my grandparents who also
Okay.
lived in a different type of government housing in
Okay.
the small town where I basically grew up from the time I was
Are
12
your
till I
grandparents
graduated.
still alive or no?
They're not.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Yeah. So then, after all of that, I went to live with my grandparents. My brother went to live with my aunt and uncle, and we were in the same town. My brother and I were super close because, when you have a rough upbringing,
Yeah.
it's a different type of bond where you feel like you need to save them and be there and protect. So
Mhm.
they made sure we had a lot of contact, and we went to the same school and everything. There was only a 3-year age gap. So
And I
my
don't know if you guys
grandparents,
experience this too, but like my sister and I are so close. And just prefacing, my story is not super similar to yours, but there are some, overlapping things. But like it's also, and I'm sure you feel this way about your brother, like there's just nobody gets it in the same way. Like you were both there. There's so many layers to the complexity of this. And like, I don't know, me and my sister have these conversations all the time. It's even like, you think if like someone's bad or something's wrong, like there's also that layer of love that siblings have still when like it's not just like, oh, this person's a villain or this person's a hero or whatever. It's like it's so complex and so complicated. And so how often, I mean, does your brother live close to you now? How often do you see him?
so fully transparent, my brother is actually in prison. He has been, his daughter is going to be 11 in May.
Mm.
And so he's been in there 11 years as of December. He'll
Wow.
be out in the next three.
Okay.
My brother took the path like the rest of my family, I always say, and
Mm.
chose to, do drugs and all the things.
Yeah.
And but we still talk every week. I go visit him all the time, so we still have a relationship. And his daughter has become my husband and I's pseudo child, so
Yeah.
we still have that connection as well.
Wow.
And I always say it was a blessing because without him having the, choices that he made, she wouldn't be as big of a deal to us. So
Yeah.
it kind of works out, and everybody makes choices and we just hope that he learned.
I hope so too. And I
Yeah,
know that that must be, especially 3 years, that's getting close. That is going to be here
getting
before we
close.
know it. And
Yeah,
I bet there's a part of you
yeah,
that is like over the moon
scared
excited and a part of
and
you that is
excited.
terrified. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
So
Thank you. Thank you for sharing all that. That's a lot. Keep going.
yeah. But, when I went to live with my grandparents were amazing people. They both had an alcohol issue, but they were great people and functioning and worked their asses off.
Mm.
But they both literally looked at me like we raised our kids. So we love you, but just don't fuck it up.
Yeah.
So I learned a lot of things. My two uncles lived with me too whenever I was for the first few years I lived with my grandparents. And it was just constant, like, just don't be an asshole. So I
Mhm.
always said, okay, don't be an asshole. But what did that
Mhm.
mean? I had no idea.
I
So
think you are the epitome of don't be an asshole. Like you are the
maybe,
opposite of an asshole. So no wonder that was
maybe.
ingrained in you for so long.
Yeah. So, I mean, my first full year at a school ever in my life was my sixth grade year. And being that I was from such a small town, we had one sixth grade class. That was it.
Mm-hmm.
I met some of my best friends that I still have today in that class. And I love that I've had my friends for as long as my journey, where
Yeah.
my changes had started because I was mean, I was super angry. I had all of this
Oh,
like,
Laree, I relate to that so
yeah.
hard.
You
Yeah.
you just you don't trust anybody. You
Mm,
have a F everything attitude, and you do truly have to make a choice. Do I want a better life,
mm,
or is this going to be what it is? In seventh grade, we all go to the same high school. So like six different elementary schools all go to the same high school. So from seventh to 12th grade, you're all together. And at that time, obviously I'm mean, I'm angry, I'm a total
mhm,
horrible human, I think.
mm.
And I have to get to know the guidance counselor at our school, who became like the epitome of everything that I ever needed.
Your
So
biggest
from
mentor.
seventh to,
Mm.
yeah, it was crazy. And from seventh to 12th grade, her and I had an English teacher that were very, very, very big parts of my life. And
Wow.
they just became my people. And
Mm,
at that point, I realized that I truly get to create my own village. I've said that before, but
mm.
Jeannie has been a part of my life forever and she's not my family. And that's
Yeah.
okay. I don't have to make all these people like me or all these people accept me or love me for who I am or guide me. I can literally create that myself. So those two women being a big part of my life, and then Jeannie, I just decided I'm just going to create my own village. And if everyone else doesn't like it, they don't have to be a part
You
of it.
remember having that thought in seventh grade?
Yep.
Wow. See, mine
Yeah.
was not that young. It took me many more years of a hard head brain for before I
Yeah.
started having thoughts like that. That is, do you remember like what the guidance counselor said, or like when do you feel like that? Like, do you vividly remember that switch, or you just know that was the age that you were like, I'm gonna choose something different?
Yeah. She just always said to me, you're better than what they are perceiving
Oh,
you as. You're also better than what they are ever going to give you. You're going to have to create it on your own, and that's okay.
okay. And doesn't that power also speak to like how we speak to children? Because my daughter's going to sixth grade next year, and that is wild that like the
Mm-hmm.
messages that we give children is could literally, I mean,
It changes
mm,
everything. Yeah,
wild.
it definitely changes everything. And I think a lot of people, they just go with the motions, or like in my situation, my family knew no different. So the talk of college or me doing something bigger or me, getting a career, buying a house, retiring one day, I've never seen any of that happen in my
Yeah.
whole
It
life.
wasn't on the radar.
And
Yeah.
it was never on my radar. So, my two brothers that I'm the closest to that are older than me, we lost one last March and the
Mm,
other one's still here, but
I'm sorry.
they've been working their asses off for so, so, so long. They own a roofing company and all the things, and they've worked so hard. And I, now is even way past all of my having all these thoughts when I was younger. My new thoughts are, you know what? We're not here forever.
Yeah.
So it's okay to change the way that you think. Even in seventh grade, I felt that way, but I didn't know how to make all those changes. I just knew I needed to start making better decisions and better choices, and
Wow.
and somewhat, make that life that I didn't even know what could be.
Mm,
So I started doing that, younger.
yeah.
And being that I had friends who had great families, I dated the same guy from seventh grade till I was a junior in college. He had a great family. So I had those role models. But again,
Yeah.
I had to tell myself it's okay to look at them and look up to them. They don't have to be the people you're surrounded by. It's okay.
Okay, and let me interrupt you right there because Laree also said this before we hit record, and I said I wish we were recording during this time because I was like, how, where do you want to go with this conversation? Because I feel like Laree one has like strategy, and maybe one day we'll go there too. But I just wanted to start with like her story, and she was like, but you know what? Like my story is my story, but I don't dwell on it. She said I feel like so many people are like, oh, own your story and share your story, and they just dwell and dwell and dwell on all the bad things. And I know you guys are hearing it, but she's trying to spit this out so that you can hear that like she is so beyond that, and like that's not what is important, and the fact that you have known that for so long I think is just such a massive testament. And I don't know if, again, like you said, you were young, like I don't know if somebody as an adult can switch to that, but I'm so fascinated how people's brains work, and I think there's a direct correlation with that mindset that you just explained and the life you're living now. And that
Yeah.
does not come natural to a lot of people. Like, I don't know if it's DNA. I don't know if it's learned. I don't know if it's an awakening. I don't know what it takes, but so few people have that, you know?
Yeah, the more that I've grown in just all the different facets, I'll get into what all I've done, I guess.
Yeah.
But everything that I've done, I've just realized, and I've had people tell me forever, you're just different. And I
Mhm.
always would be like, okay, I don't know if that's good or bad, but I'll
Yeah.
take it. It
Yeah.
is what it is. And I don't know. I have always said it doesn't define me, but it has made me who I am
Mm.
because I am stronger. I'm more outspoken. I do still, even as an adult, have very severe trust issues, but that's gonna, you learn
Yeah.
to people read differently, and
And it
you
is a
learn
it is
to,
a protection thing. So you're also not super mad at it either. Yeah, you've
yeah,
needed it.
you learn
Mm.
who to let in and who to, I always say, keep it at arm's length, and it's
Mm.
okay. And so that's, what I've always done. And it's worked fine for me. But yeah, my biggest thing is always creating my own village was huge.
Yeah.
It's changed over the years. People come, people go, but
Yeah.
like, who I let in is definitely different, because there have been plenty of times where people will be like, "Oh, Laree doesn't like me," and people will say, "Oh, she just hasn't let you in yet." And it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, because I'm not going to waste my time on every single
Wow.
person anymore because there's too much
See, and even
disappointment.
that is kind of wild for me to hear. Maybe you just came into Soul Tribe very clear at what you were trying to get out of it. I feel like you are the most welcoming. You give so much. Laree will spend so much time and energy on Marco Polo answering every question, pouring into everyone. The other day, she was like, these girls are about to invest in this class, and I know all this information. Let me teach another master class before they go spending their money on it. So it is wild to hear you say that. But then, yeah, once you are in your village, my God, do you love people hard. And that is
Yeah,
really amazing to see.
it's a good and bad thing. I love very, very, very hard. Once you're in,
Mm.
that's it. My tribe is super important to me. Yeah, they're amazing, amazing people. And
Mm.
I love surrounding myself by people who are, I say this all the time in Soul Tribe, but like, you know, we are different. We are a totally different level of
Yeah.
stylist and human. So
And
I
not in
love
an egotistical way, just in a we get it. Like we connect
it's
in
a
a
totally different thought.
different way.
Just
Yes.
different. And yeah, it has nothing to do with being, way above or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's just we think differently, and that's what I love about it.
Mm.
So, but yeah, anyways, that's
Okay.
kind of, some of it.
Can we briefly fast forward now? So I
Yeah.
understand seventh grade was a major switch for you. You obviously
Yeah.
went to high school, went to college, went to cosmetology school. Give me a quick run through that, because then I also do want to get to like your where you're at now, and so bring
Yeah.
me like the big benchmarks along the way.
So I decided I wanted to be a funeral director
Okay.
because my dad looked like garbage at his funeral.
Oh,
And I thought, I'll be able to do this. Screw this. Nobody wants to play with dead people. I'll do that job. Yeah, sure. That sounds great. And when we did our little surveys when we were in high school, it was like, yeah, Laree, be a funeral director. I was like, okay, why not? No one's ever
oh,
told me that
that's so
before.
funny.
So I decided that's what I was going to do. And, go to school, and it's like the hardest thing to ever get into. You cannot tap into that market. This is a lot of people are going to hear this and they've never heard this part of my story. So
Mm.
it's a super hard market to get into. It's all family. I had no idea what the hell I was doing. And I was like, well, I mean, I'll just do it. I'll figure it out. But the job, it wasn't about the job. It was about getting a job. It was impossible. So I decided to go to school to do hair so that I could do hair in funeral homes and makeup. And that's when I met Darla. Darla's my best friend, and she does work for me. And I knew nothing about hair. I was like the biggest tomboy ever,
Hmm.
and which is hilarious. And
I was that way as a kid too. I feel like we have
oh my
so many
gosh.
synchronicities. It's so cute. Keep going.
And I remember we started a week later than everybody else, and we open up our big kit of all the crazy stuff they give you. And I hold this thing up and I go, "What the freaking hell is this?"
Uh-huh.
And she goes, "That's a manicure bowl." I go, "I'm so screwed."
Oh, that's
So
so funny.
the two of us became really close. One, we started late, and then we just built this beautiful friendship, and we've been besties ever since. But I convinced her to move to the city after we did hair school. We graduated and everything. We moved to the city because I wanted to go to massage school so that I could massage bodies before the embalmers would come in. Because, again, another stepping stone.
Wow.
And then she hated massage school. And so she quits. I finish. I get a job as an internship at a spa. I didn't tell them it was an internship, so they paid me for it. And because I'm
Hell
money a
yeah,
little driven.
clever. Uh-huh.
So then I do that, and I'm working this whole time. When we moved to the city, we're working at it's a chain hair salon around here, but it's local to the Pittsburgh area. I worked there for about 7 years, decided that I really, really, really hated a large salon environment.
Mm.
It was like 25 people and just all hair. But I did work there for 7 years. That's where I met my husband. He was a client of mine, which is always a really fun story to tell people.
Mhm.
I asked him out. He did not ask me. And now we've been together almost 20 years. But it's
Love
so
it.
funny to tell that story. We used to refer to him as the hot client, and he would make me nervous, and
And you
nobody makes me
scored
nervous.
him. I love
And so
it.
I was like, yeah, this is gonna happen. So here we are. So I wanted to leave in the salon environment. So I went to work at a spa. I decided, you know what, I'm gonna work 6 days a week. I worked 6 days a week at the spa, and I brought all these new services to the spa. I was able to help them grow into, from just doing massage to doing all these awesome things. It was great. And I would still do my salon clients out of their houses. I would just go to their houses after I would leave the spa because I had built all these amazing relationships and I just couldn't leave them. I was like,
Yeah.
they're part of my village now. Like, how do I do this?
Oh, yeah.
So I was working like a million hours, and I'm not afraid of work. So that was no big
Nothing's
deal. But I did,
changed.
if something needed to change, and just like my husband and I had decided we weren't going to have children and all of that, but I was like, something's got to give. And
Yeah.
so I decided to go to nursing school. And that's when I went to nursing school and finished that, wanted to be a trauma nurse, and still missed my clients.
How
So
old were you
still,
in nursing school? I'm just trying to keep track of this
yeah,
timeline.
so nursing school was, I was almost 30.
Okay.
So 11, almost 12 years ago.
Wow.
Because my husband and I didn't get married until I was 30. We were together
Okay.
9 years before we got married.
Wow.
So yeah, it was around that same time. So yeah, a long time ago. And
Wow.
so I decided, well, my whole point was like, oh, I'll go to nursing school. It's a big girl job. I'll have
Mm-hmm.
benefits. I'll be able to
Mm-hmm.
retire one day because that was always such a big thing for me. And
Everybody just put a pin in what she just said because that is way too ironic. Keep going.
and so I was like, you know what? Okay, we'll do this. So I did, worked my ass off, got through it, but I missed my clients. So I was like, you know what? Either I need to go all in on nursing or I need to go all in on my other stuff
Yeah.
because I can't do everything forever.
Yeah.
And so I decided I'm going to go back and I'm going to get my nurse practitioner because I could work in a medical spa and then I could do my clients and be a nurse
Yep.
practitioner, make money, and it'll be fine. So randomly, a client of mine, he is actually a dental broker. He brokes and sells dental practices. He was on
Okay.
my massage table and he's like, Laree, you're never going to believe what I picked up today. And I said, what? He said, well, a hair salon. And I said, oh, that's crazy. Is your wife going to buy it? Because she's a hairstylist.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, maybe you want it. And I said, oh, hell no. No, thank you. That's
Uh-huh.
okay. And so by the time the hour was over, I had set up the meeting to go look at it because I'm kind of whatever, F it, let's do it. So
What's
that's,
you'll explore every opportunity. Yeah.
hey, if I fail, I fail. Like, I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
So I went and looked at it. I talked to my husband. He was like, you sure? And I said, well, The way I look at it is I'm still like, if I give it 5 years, that was the lease, and
Mm-hmm.
it works out, awesome. If it doesn't, I'm still under 40 and I
You
can go
learned
back to
something?
nurse practitioner school. I'm not
Yeah.
worried about it. So as long as I get a paycheck, who cares?
Yeah.
So that's what I did. And so in 2016, I bought the salon. We closed October 31st and I opened November 1
Wow.
because I'm a psycho.
Yeah.
And it was a complete nightmare psycho. I made my best friend come with me. I was like, Darla, you have to. Like,
Okay,
this
so
is not an
see, you
option.
are somebody that lives by fast, messy action. We are clearly, I don't know when your birthday is. I don't know if we're the same zodiac sign. I don't know if we're the same Enneagram. I don't know what's happening, but we are very wired the same. I am the same as you. Just fucking full send. Go clean up as you're going. It'll work out. If it doesn't, it's not a big deal. But let's go. Like,
Yeah.
what are we waiting
Let's
for?
just do it. What's
Fast,
happening?
messy
Yeah.
action. And sometimes I explain that to people, especially on like these Zoom calls, and I can just tell that's so not how they're wired. And I see their face just kind of like glaze over, like, no, I won't be doing that. But I just and again, you can't control how you're wired, but I so love when I get to connect with somebody that thinks the same way as me. Because people are just like, oh, but what if this and what if this? And all the little details need to be perfect. And you are such a testament of like, no, the fuck, it doesn't. Let's get moving. We don't got time to waste.
Yeah. Sometimes my husband tells me, can you just take a breather and focus on one thing because you got 8 million things going on here.
Yeah,
I'm like the notebook queen, the post-it
same,
queen.
same.
I can't ever half the time get half my shit organized. I'm like, yeah, that's a great idea. And then like 3 months later, I'm like, that was such a good idea. And now 8
Uh-huh.
people are doing it,
Yep. That's
So
like magic. Yep. Okay, so the
yeah.
salon has been open then for what, 8 years now? Are we coming up on
Yeah,
8 years?
this November will be 8 years.
Okay.
So
And you said it's a 5-year lease. Let's give it a shot. If we crash and burn, we crash and burn. Now we're 8 years in. I know I asked you ahead of time if you were comfortable sharing, and I'm so grateful that you are because I think these are things that people need to hear. That's why I said put a pin when you said, oh, I'll go to nurse practitioner school. They make great money, they have a retirement, they have benefits. I think people like you sharing stories is very important. So why don't you share? We're at year 8. I know your big milestones that you hit last year. Do you feel comfortable sharing where you're at?
So last year we hit over a 500,000 in sales, which was like crazy insane for us. And that was like service dollars. So, I feel like I'm at a point right now in our where I am with owning the salon, being behind the chair. Sometimes I get a lot of like pushback and you
Yeah.
shouldn't be doing that. You're the owner, don't work behind the chair so much. But for me, I mean, it just kind of works. I mean, I'm super grateful and
Kinda.
blessed that
Kinda works.
yeah,
Just
kind of works.
kinda.
Some days I just
Oh,
freaking make it work. But I'm blessed that I can employ my husband full time. He's been laid off 2 different times. When my husband and I met, he was a teacher, and so he got laid off right before our wedding and before we bought our
mm,
first house. So like all these things have happened, and we're the dynamic of where we are. I would have never, ever, ever thought we would be in.
wow.
I mean, he was my rock. He was my Prince Charming. I was like, oh my
He was
gosh,
the
this
hot
amazing man.
client. Yeah.
Yeah, he
Never
was the
did we
hot
think
man,
he
right?
was employee number
And
one. Yeah.
it's so crazy because I'm such a dominant personality
Mm,
that I I don't I couldn't see myself being with like somebody else who was like, no, this is what we're doing, or
yeah.
no, we can't spend money on that. I'd be like,
Mm,
what?
bye.
So we
Yeah.
work so well together.
Hmm.
And the amazing point of like our one of the biggest things is we're both like super money conscious
Yeah.
and we like to have fun, but we know that we want to retire someday or whatever. And I always say he's a money hoarder. He's way better at saving
That's
than
how
me, and
Ryan
I'm
is
good at
too.
saving, but damn.
Hmm. Yeah.
So it's such a blessing that we don't have to, worry about that kind of stuff.
Will
I
you say
never thought
loud
I'd
and
be in
proud
that.
the retirement contributions you were able to do this year after hitting your gross sales?
Yeah, I was able for both of us to contribute almost 45,000.
This
So
year
that was a
into
really
their 401ks. Yeah.
and that was like a, you know, based on like a business side where we already personally put money in.
Yeah.
But I didn't tell you this, but like another thing that we decided to do because we had a good year was be able to contribute to our staff's 401k. So we were able to give them 4% back into their 401k too, just because, and some of them made an extra few $1,000, you know. So
Insane.
I was really grateful to be able to do that too, because when I took that money and was able to do it for us, I was like, I didn't feel great about it. And I also wanted to be able to help them. So it was
Absolutely,
awesome.
absolutely. And of course, there's always that, giving back to the team, but I also want you to own that because again, that's why I said put a pin in it. Why are we told, and I just feel such a responsibility if I'm going to have a podcast talking to people in this industry, why are we told go to nursing school like that's going to get you retirement? Laree, you put what a lot of people, a lot of nurses' salaries are into your retirement in 1 year. Like that deserves the moment that it deserves. And of course, Laree is not every person in our industry, but I know for me, I'm always seeking proof that something can be done. And if they can do it, then I can do it. And if this person can do a version of this, then I can do, it's just, and I think I'm so grateful that you're willing to share that so openly because I am just blown away by you and what you are doing.
I just wish, like, I think as I talk to some of the tribe members who keep asking me different questions, because, I
Because
was
we're all
super
obsessed with you
apprehensive.
now. Yeah.
I was like super apprehensive to share because I mean, talking money is dirty and like it's kind of
No.
weird. And
Uh,
like being in a state where like everyone's commission. So like it's
mhm.
so bizarre to like talk about the money you make or whatever. But I mean, as you know, like I nurture my staff. I mean,
Oh my
they're
God,
my
does she nurture
favorite
her
people.
staff?
So
Hmm.
I mean, I all I want to do is give them the world. And so, but if I wasn't digging that deep and working that hard, I would never be able to give them anything back. And they're working their asses off for me.
Hmm.
So the fact that
And
I
for
was able
them,
to be able,
yes.
oh yeah, and for themselves,
Yep.
of course.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, like, it is such a humbling thing for me to know that other people are willing to put in the work too. And so when I talk to tribe members, I think a lot of people, it's they don't budget. That's
Mm.
the end of it. People just go into it like, okay, well last year I was able to do this, so this year I want to do this. And the number one thing I say is, okay, where were your expenses?
Mm. Because we love
So
looking
many
at that
people,
max dollar. Yeah.
yeah, girl, I have a budget, and my girls will tell you, okay, we're not buying, 10 shampoos because we're waiting until the first because it's
Yeah.
not in the budget right now.
Yeah.
I have come up with systems in place so that we backstock the things we sell the most, and we
But you're
all the other
financially
things. But
disciplined. And I don't know if this is a
yeah,
generational thing. I don't know if this is a human nature thing. I don't know if this is a lack of education. I don't know if this is a lack of budgeting. But there are so many people that, like, if it's in the account, it's doable. And there's so many people that, even if it's not in the account, like debt can take care of it and we'll figure it out later. And I think that it's nothing new. It's nothing groundbreaking. It's nothing like it's your numbers don't lie. You have to know them to grow them.
yeah,
And it's not fun, it's not sexy, but like that's what it takes. And there are so many just people. I just hear people talk sometimes and it's like, I'm just trying to think of even clients behind the chair. Oh, I got my tax return, so like I'm doing this. And like you can just hear what they're saying is their situation is
mhm,
a chunk of money came in and it is instantly blown. And what Laree lives like, and I'm also grateful you said your husband's a cash hoarder. Ryan is also the more fiscally hoarding one of us. We're both, driven by it and inspired by it. But I remember when we were in our early years of marriage, I mean, a few years in, I remember having a talk with my mother-in-law, Ryan's stepmom, and she like stayed the weekend with the kids and Ryan was traveling for work. And I remember just kind of opening up to her because again, my family, like I can't ask my family budgeting questions. I don't want to throw anyone under the bus, but like I would not trade places with either of my parents' financial situation. They've never known what to give me for that. And Ryan's dad and stepmom are do really well for themselves financially. So they're people I look up to and I respect their opinion. And I remember telling her, like, I'm so sick of this. Ryan always says, we're broke, we can't do that. We're broke, we can't do that. We're broke, we can't do that. And I was going through this like manifestation, law of attraction. I'm like, Ryan, stop saying that. We are not broke. We have tens of thousands of dollars. Why are you saying that? But that's how Ryan's brain worked, is he had a budget and we had to learn how to communicate with each other. But I remember my mother-in-law saying to me, you guys need to determine what zero means to you. Because what you're telling me, Lisa, is that zero to Ryan is like $7,000. Zero to you is zero. And
Mm,
that's why you're
mhm,
clashing heads so much. And it's just these little tiny nuggets that stick with you. And like you're saying, like your girls are like, come on, Laree, I'm sitting down to run inventory. Like, let me just place this order. And you're like, no, girlfriend, it's not the first. Like, we do not have that right now. Like, we follow what we say we're going to do. We devise a plan and we stick with it. And so I think
mhm,
don't just move past that part, people that are listening. Like, that is what it takes. And I geek out
mhm.
on like Dave Ramsey's stuff, and I know a lot of
I
people
love Dave
say,
Ramsey
yes, and a
everything.
lot of people say he's so outdated and he's so, but like it's not that complicated.
Mm-mm, mm-mm. It's not. I mean, the biggest thing is like, especially for us. I mean, my tribe will tell you I sent them all the savings challenge book, and
Ooh,
yeah, it's amazing. It's like my favorite thing ever. But like, it's basically this cute little binder because we all love our little planners and
uh-huh,
binders. And you have like 1 to 100 in these little slots, and you can put a $1, $2, $3, whatever, all the way
love.
to 100. And when you're done, you have over 5 grand, and it's amazing. And then there's one, it's like a 30-day challenge. Well, we have
Mm-hmm,
cash all the time. Stop
mm-hmm.
throwing it away. Like everyone's like, oh, whatever, it's $5 or it's $10. And whenever my tribe and some of the other Soul Tribe members had reached out to me, like, hey, people are saying something about you're doing like all these crazy like
Money
things to
saving
cut
things,
the
yeah.
money. Yeah. So I told them, like, I don't buy new clothes. I shop thrift stores. And people are like,
Mm,
really? Yes. And this year was a really big year for me because I do that so much. As you'll find, I'm a Disney fanatic. Actually, on Sunday, me and two of my staff members are going down to Disney. We're leaving on a 5:20 a.m. flight, doing
hell
three
yeah.
parks and coming home on a 10:30.
Stop.
So we're crazy. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And so I like to save for those things, but also not just go, oh, I can't do it because it's not in the budget. So I don't feel guilty because I didn't go spend $150 on a new shirt and a pair of pants. Instead, I spent it on a ticket to go into Disney. So it's just different. And everybody needs to figure out where they want to spend their money and what's important to them. My grocery budget is like $60 a week
Mm,
max. And everyone thinks like, how do you possibly do that? You meal plan. You only eat what
mm-hmm,
you have. If you're like, I'm not feeling it, you're like, oh, well, I'm eating it anyways. So
mm-hmm.
it's just certain things like that that I do. But I mean, I grew up not sometimes knowing if we were going to eat, or what
Mm.
we were going to eat and all those things. So you have a different
But Laree,
mindset
it's
when
a
that's your
fine
life.
line though, because you also don't live in scarcity. Like you travel, you
Mhm.
give, like where is that fine line? Like I guess how someone listening, like they're like, well, I want the new outfit and I want to go to Disney and I want to travel. Like why are you disciplined in that way? And how do you decide? Because it's going to be different for everyone, but how do you decide what is important to you?
Yeah, I mean, that's individual. What's important to you? Maybe you eating ramen every day, you could care less, but you want the new shirt. Like you have to
Mm,
figure out what are the points that are super important to you that you are not willing to give up. One of the biggest things is, and one of my tribe members made it completely clear. I got rid of all the convenience. I don't
mm.
do DoorDash, I don't do Instacart, I don't
I
do
have an
Starbucks.
Instacart sitting on
Yeah.
my front step right this second. Keep going. It is. I need to go get
And I'm
it.
not saying never, ever, ever, but like
Totally. But
literally, those are
what's
things that
important? Yeah.
they're just not important to me. But to some people, them having someone come in and clean their house is their number one thing and it changed
Mm-hmm.
their life.
Mm-hmm.
Girl, that's what you need to then put on your top priority list. But yeah, I'm also like a budget traveler, like a crazy person. So I will find hotels that are like $40 and flights that are like $20 one way. I'm crazy. So
So, okay, do you think there's a dollar amount that you have to hit? Because again, I'm just going to reiterate, Laree said in the last calendar year, they hit over $500,000. Is there a number where you stop behaving like that? Or no, this is your personality. This is fun. This is what you like.
yeah, no, this is me. I don't need all like I don't need to drive a BMW. I love my
Uh-huh.
RAV4, like it's a 2017. I'm good.
Yeah.
Those things aren't important to me, but everyone is different. You have to figure out
Yep.
what's important to you. I could probably make 3 million and I would still live the life I live. When we bought the house that we live in now, I remember my husband and I had to like come see it at different times. And I walked in with the real estate agent and I just said, "Holy fucking shit." And she looked at me like, what? Like, are you okay? I said,
Yeah.
I have never in my life thought I could be and
Oh,
own a place like this. It was just, and to some people, my house is just normal.
yeah.
But we talk about this a lot. My in-laws are the most amazing people in my life.
Mhm.
And they raised my husband in the white picket fence, beautiful, all
Mm.
American family. And I'm so grateful for that. But I did not ever understand it. Living in
Mm.
an apartment forever would have been fine to me. It's all I ever
Yeah.
knew until
Yeah.
I lived in my first house. So, yeah, it was like a whole different world. So
Mm.
yeah, I don't know. I don't think I would change it. I mean, I could afford a bigger house that costs more money, but I don't see the point. I would
It's
rather
finding what's important to you.
really pour into my nieces and nephews and be there and have all these memories and be able to make all these memories with all these people, and
Yeah.
that's really important to me because at the end of the day, what you had doesn't matter. It's the
Mhm.
memories that you made. So
Mm. Okay, so now actual like technical advice, something tangible people can leave with. You say you got to make a budget. Everybody's like, ew, poo, that's boring. I don't want to do that. But like when you are budgeting, Laree, obviously you go over all of your expenses. What is like essential for you to save? Because everybody has kind of a different, importance for that. So like how much are you saving? Do you do a zero-based budget like Dave Ramsey? How do you go about doing it?
So my biggest thing is no debt.
Okay.
So my husband and I, but by the end, well, probably before the end of this year, the only debt we'll have is our house. And then I'm hoping to pay our house off in the next like 10 years. So
Heck yeah.
for me, my biggest thing is just at the end of the day, no debt, number one. And then after that, I mean, our paychecks are different all the time, right? Because of
Mm-hmm.
what we do. So I typically take like my cash, whatever I make that day, I'll take 60% and literally just put it away
Squirrel
in
it
my
away.
envelopes and make sure that I don't ever touch it again, or I use my
Wow.
my money challenge too. That really helps me because some days I have $200 that's extra and some days I have 10, and
Yeah.
that's okay. But whenever I am going to make a large purchase or go on a big trip, like this year was amazing. I was able to save a bunch of money just based on my like gratuities. And
Mm.
my husband and I at the end of the month are going to Paris for a whole week, and
Oh,
we've never done Europe or any of that.
oh my
Um,
gosh.
and it was his Christmas and birthday gift, so we'll be there over his birthday. But like that
Oh,
was last year I did Alaska, and it was a big bucket list for him. And I just remember being in the airport and I just started crying, and he's like, what is up? And I was like, I just can't believe we were
you
able to
did it.
do this. Like, I
Yeah.
can't believe I'm here. Like, it's just
Yeah.
so all the time. Just today before I left the salon, my best friend and I were talking, and I was like I'm gonna do this podcast, and it's just so weird because I just never thought this
Who
would be
am
a
I?
thing.
What am I
Yeah, like
doing?
what
What
is
is going
happening?
on? I
So
know.
I always say that I
Mm.
don't I don't want to give people tangible numbers because those are your own comfort
Totally.
level. I would take
Totally.
100% of my money and put it into savings and sacrifice for 2 months if I had to do it for a specific reason. So I
Just
don't
need to
know.
figure
That's
out
kind of a
why.
hard one
Yeah,
for
no,
me.
I
Yeah.
love that. I think that's exactly what people need to hear. And even so, obviously, again, like I said, I really hope this doesn't discourage anyone. I will tell you guys, majority of stylists and salon owners are not even bringing in numbers that you are. And I also know more of the nitty-gritty of Laree's, and it's not like it's this whole team is just you're rolling in the dough. You are the main, kind of breadwinner of the salon still. So like she does still work her ass off.
Yeah, I
So I
mean,
don't
I almost
go ahead.
50% of our sales were me last year. So, and I do have a large, I have my stylist, I only have three other stylists, and then I have four spa professionals as well. But yeah, I always tell people I'm not afraid to say that I bring in the big chunk, but
Mhm.
I work really hard to do that. And at the end of the day, that's when my staff is like, okay, get out. we love you. It's
Yeah.
time to go. They encourage me to go home too, which is again the support system that I've built.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And
it's
you like it. And I remember the very first time I
yeah.
heard like the actual numbers you're doing, I was like, Laree, would you mind sharing that with Soul Tribe? Because people need to hear that. She's like, Lisa, I'm so afraid to say it because okay, we do cultivate me, other educators, this community that all of us different people are in. We have cultivated where, I mean, I work 2 days a week behind the chair. Laree may work 5 or 6, and very little hours. But that's the thing is there is the freedom. And she was worried that she was going to get like tore to shreds of like, okay, yeah, you're doing those numbers, but like how much are you working? And that has become like the new bragging rights to people. And there's no right, wrong, anything in between. What I just think is so incredible and what I'm just so grateful to be a part of is an industry that can let you have any version of
Yeah.
that, whatever you pick
So
and choose.
yeah, I coach. I mean, the way that I run my entire salon is I do everything by goal setting. So
Mhm.
my staff sets their own goals and they work their dream schedule from the time they start. And then I just coach them to build the clientele to their dream schedule. I mean, my best friend came back to work with me after, starting her family, and she
Mm.
has to be on the schedule of her kids. So she works 9 to 2:30
Yep.
and she works every other Saturday. And it works with her
Mhm.
schedule, it works with her kids' schedule. Her husband travels a lot. And then I have another, Rachel, who is like I always call her my ride or die. She's my
Mhm.
shit. I love her. And Rachel's been with me almost 7 years. And
Wow.
we've all become such good friends that like I can't imagine my life without Rachel.
Mhm.
But Rachel doesn't mind the hustle and the grind. She's also
Yep.
27. So it just depends. But I tell her all the time, when you're ready to cut the hours is when you scale. It's just different.
Mhm.
You don't always have to grind it out, but
Yeah.
you do have to get to a point where you can then know, okay, this is my comfort and now we can scale it. And I do believe everyone should work the schedule that makes them happy because mental health is super important to me
Yeah.
and burnout is so real. But
Mm.
that's why I for me, to prevent my burnout is always having something else on
To
the
look forward
horizon.
to.
I like
Yeah.
to have something planned and something to look forward to, and why am I working my ass off and all
The
those
next
things.
big
So
exciting thing. And you
yeah,
also love being behind the chair when you're doing spa
I
things.
love
Like
my
you
yeah,
are
I love
obsessed with
my
your
clients.
clients. You are
Yeah.
obsessed with your team. So for you, that's just the way you
Yeah.
live. And I remember you saying that. You're like, we don't have kids. Like this is what I pour myself into, and I wouldn't want it any other way. And I think that's inspiring too. And I think that actually needs to be talked about more because we almost went so far into like the time freedom that now we're almost like people are feeling shamed for loving their schedule, even if it's a ton of hours. Because guess what? If you can earn a ton in a smaller amount of time, you can actually earn even more in even more time. So, like, I just think it's
Right.
important to talk about and to share that. So, okay, we're getting a little bit close on time. So, I want to start to kind of wrap it up. And I want to just like ask you a few questions that I'm thinking now, just as I've even gotten to know you even more. So, do you ever experience burnout? What does like white space and stillness look like to Laree?
Yeah, so I didn't even know what the hell white space was until I joined Soul Tribe.
And I just
Because I'm just like the constant chaos of
yes.
all things. I'm like, I always joke and say, like, I'm like a snow globe. You just put me in and shake me up, and I just do a bunch
Uh-huh.
of shit. But for me, me being able to travel is huge for
Yeah.
me. I mean, people are like, "Oh, you're going to Disney for literally less than 24 hours," and I'm like, "Yeah, but as soon as I get through TSA, I'm like
You're
in my
pumped.
zone." So that's part of me, what I like to do. I do love to cook. I'm all things. I love essential oils and things like that. I cook
All
with essential
natural.
oils, all those
Uh-huh.
things. Because I have a lot of sensitivities. I can't do, as you know, my whole crazy new dry shampoo world.
Uh-huh.
So I'm constantly thinking of like the what's new, what's next. A lot of it is whatever can keep my hands busy. I don't
Mm.
need the quiet. I grew up with a big family, so I'm used to the chaos. But I do like to zone out and be by myself, which is kind
Mhm.
of weird because I do like to be around people, which I am all the
But it's
time.
balance, yeah.
It has to be balanced, but yeah, I'm not somebody who like wants to go and like sit in quiet and just read my book by myself. I like to read, but that's not, I'm more of the what planning something fun and doing something fun and getting out, because I've always felt if I'm here, people do still call me and people still text me because most of my clients have my phone number, which is fine. But I have set that boundary where I say, "Hey, is this for margaritas or is it a salon question?" And they
Love
always
that.
laugh and they're like, I'll call on Tuesday, because
Oh yeah.
I realized that when quarantine happened, I pour so much into my guests, and a lot of them never called to see if I was okay. And mentally,
Mm,
my husband and I were in
weren't.
the same job. So like my
Mm,
whole life was like, okay, what's next? And
wow.
you're trying to keep 8 people's jobs alive. So it was, but they didn't. They called me to say, when am I going to be able to get my hair done? And I realized in that moment, like, okay,
There is
there's
a
got to be
boundary
some
there still.
separation. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
And I want to say you do that so well. And like I said, we will start to wrap this up. I don't know how you want people, because I'm almost worried to just tell everyone to go DM you because Laree pours so much into everyone that asks her every single question. So obviously, if you guys are inspired by this episode, please give Laree some love. Tell her that. But like, whatever you ask her, I hope that she has boundaries with that too. But that you are someone where you say your stylists are your friends, your clients are your friends. Like you these rules, you work with your husband, these rules that we are told like it's a line that shouldn't be
Don't do it.
crossed. You do it, but you do it so well. You don't do like you know where the line is. I mean, there's no haziness there. You know what it is, and you don't
Mhm.
even like dwell on it and think about how to respond. It's very clear where the boundary is, and you're just clear as kind. What is that, Brene Brown? Like you don't get offended by it, you don't get defensive about it. It just works. Do you have tips on that? How did you
Yeah.
figure
I
that
mean,
out?
my biggest thing is that you literally have to know your business self and
Mm,
your professional self, and
yeah,
then your
personal. Mhm.
fun, yeah,
Yeah.
personal self. And I am very much two different people. My husband will probably tell you from Tuesday to Saturday, I'm a little different when I'm at the salon
Uh-huh.
than I am at home. Because there have been plenty of times where he's like, you're being a bitch. Like, I love you, but oh my God, what the hell is happening?
Sometimes
And
we need
it's
to
just
hear
like, I'm
it.
taking 8,000 things that are, being thrown at me at one time, which I
Yeah.
love, but sometimes I have to like do all the things and decompress it at the same time
We
and
drop
and
some balls
prioritize.
sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah. Mm, I love
yeah.
it. Well, thank you, Laree. I
Yeah.
said this after her masterclass, and she's already talked about another masterclass. I'm going to say it after this podcast. I would not be surprised if this was the not the only podcast episode that you're on, which I know this was weird enough to take in. But yeah, you guys, we scratched the surface. I'm amazed every time I talk to you. You could deep dive with Laree on any given topic that we talked about. She just did a masterclass on nurturing her clients. And you guys have no idea the amount of value that she shared in there. So your brain fascinates me. You know that maybe you don't know that SpongeBob episode where he's like searching through his brain all the filing cabinets in the brain. Like I want to just be a little SpongeBob in Laree's brain searching all of her filing cabinets because you fascinate me, you inspire me. I'm grateful to know you. You are such an asset to Soul Tribe, so I hope that I make that clear enough to you. Thank you for being brave and sharing this with like a bigger group of people by being on the podcast. I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. But I mean, honestly, I mean, Soul Tribe has been everything to me. So even though it's been such a short period of time, I mean, I was in a larger business group for a long time, and I didn't really realize I wanted something smaller, but I didn't realize what Soul Tribe was going to bring in.
Mhm.
The connections that you make and the relationships that you build, it is different, but it's all positive. Like there's nothing ever negative about it. Yeah, so thank you.
Thank you for saying that. All
Mhm.
right, and
No,
thank you,
it's
friends.
awesome.
Yeah, thank you guys for listening. I will leave Laree's information, whatever she feels comfortable sharing, maybe her Instagram or something like that. If you guys want to follow her and connect with her, she is gonna be ramping up the social media content here soon. We did a hot seat with her. We have lots of
It's
plans.
happening.
Yeah, we're all very excited about her content strategy coming up. So I will leave all that in the show notes, and I will talk to you all on the next podcast episode. Thank you for listening. Bye.